And welcome viewers to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. We are coming at you live for today's daily space weather video. This one will be comprehensive. It'll also include meteorology information. Let's do it. So we're starting out here looking at the closest star. Good morning to El Sol. This is 171 angstroms plus the colorized magnetogram. Typically this portion of our space weather content only appears on Twitch. Today we're doing it all on YouTube in one live stream. Here's the colorized magnetogram. And we've got a massive number of sunspots. Something like 165 sunspots, depending on which source you're talking about. We've seen a minor reduction in the radio flux, but that's just a huge number of sunspots. And solar cycle 25 looking pretty beefy. The radio flux now at 140 solar flux units. And there is the 1 year chart of the radio flux. It's that black line, and you can see the red line, which is the sunspot number, has now crossed higher than the black line. So don't be surprised to see the radio flux come up promptly here. That's just a minor reduction in solar activity over the past day. And here's your space weather enthusiast dashboard. No geomagnetic storm or unrest conditions in NOAA's forecast. And we're getting some thunder and lightning here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Next, we'll take a look at global seismicity briefly. There was one interesting earthquake. In fact, the largest earthquake was close to home. So this is the 90-day bar graph, and here is the largest quake of the past 24 hours. It was off the coast of Oregon. There's a location of that. That 5.6 happened at 11:56 Universal Time yesterday on June 15th. So here's your global view. And there were a series of aftershocks there for the next couple of hours off the coast of Oregon. Otherwise, things pretty calm here as far as global seismicity goes. And thanks for leaving a comment to TM3. We'll put everybody's comments on the screen here momentarily. And we encourage you to leave comments. Thanks to everybody who's been viewing our YouTube content, our live stream, etc. Thanks to the Smash team especially. Smashamash.com/Smash team. If you aren't seeing all of our videos in one convenient location, head to smashamash.com/Smash team and click posts. You'll find all of our videos in one convenient link. We've been putting up videos to Twitch, to BitChute, and to YouTube. Today's featured product is Universum Liberate, the motto of the Galactic Federation Special Forces. And we've got the design on various different things here, everything from dresses to tank tops to phone cases and prints and so forth. Universum Liberate. If I could wave my magic wand, I'd set everybody free. Don't forget to enter the promo code FINDYOURVIBE now, today and tomorrow. Tomorrow through June 17th there. So Find Your Vibe is the promo code to save 20%. Universum Liberate. Help the galaxy by making people freer. Next, talking about Smashamash.com. Our homepage, pretty sweet. Give Smash staff a raise by picking up some merch or becoming a member of the Smash team, especially at the gold or silver membership level. You can find our links to our social media there, as well as our Redbubble shop. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. We haven't forgotten about the paper explaining a plausible mechanism underlying the solar polar field reversal and sunspot cycles. And let's transition to volcanoes. Krakatoa continues to erupt on the Sunda Strait, producing a 3,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Dacono exploding 7,000-foot ash plume from Dacono, Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia. Exploding, it's a 21,000-foot ash plume, flight level 210. Two Ecuadorian volcanoes are currently erupting, Sangay in explosive fashion, as well as Revenador, also in an explosive fashion. Flight level 220 from Sangay, flight level 170 over Revenador. Explosive activity and intermittent puffs from Sabancaya located in Peru, producing a 22,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Again, please do visit our links. And let's get to the earthly geospace. So here's the last 4 hours of the magnetohydrodynamic pressure around planet Earth. It's our geospace magnetosphere movie. And it looks like we're seeing a little bit of a waning here of a significantly long duration coronal hole high-speed stream. People were thinking it was a coronal mass ejection strike, but it looked exactly like a coronal hole strike. And we'll get to the real-time solar wind here in a minute. First, the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. We showed you the magnetic moment from space. And there's the magnetic moment from the ground. This will show you the most likely places on the planet for aurorae, power line, railroad line, and pipeline induction. It's magnetohydrodynamic pressure scaled in nanotesla, magnetic flux density. Not magnetohydrodynamic pressure, magnetic flux density, nanotesla. All right, so the KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, currently at a KP2. So geomagnetic calm conditions here following a brief period of geomagnetic unrest and geomagnetic storm. Looking at the real-time solar wind, we still see an elevated solar wind speed here, about 550 kilometers per second. Solar wind density here just nominal at about 8.7 protons per cubic centimeter. Next, moving into magnetic data. So this is a section of the video that we typically do show on YouTube. And there are your GOES magnetometer readings over the past 3 days. A bunch of plasma from space has been arriving, sent to Earth from the closest star. You see these spiky readings here. That's a typical signature of coronal high-speed wind streams. And next we'll look at the top view ecliptic plane field plot. There is a South Pole current sheet about to arrive at Earth. It may be here as early as tomorrow. I'm thinking maybe even before that. And we are seeing most solar activity here in the northern hemisphere, some very large sunspot groups. We'll get to it in a moment. First, some more imagery from the National Sunspot Observatory Gong 2 potential field surface source model data. This line of sight field plot showing the sun's B field in blue also shows the solar magnetogram and the polar fields in green for north and red for south. Next, we'll look at coronal holes. And coronal holes are a very important feature of the solar cycles. They help us to understand the process of the solar polar field reversal. We've got some South Pole oriented coronal holes rotating in here on the eastern limb. And thanks for sharing the content to Dutch Since's Twitch live stream. Much love to you too. Somehow I doubt Dutch Since will give us a shout out. Anyway, looking at the sun here in 193 angstroms from the SDO. And we've got North Pole oriented coronal holes here still facing the Earth. We can expect some additional high-speed solar winds from those. And let's just briefly put your comments on the screen there. Thanks again for sharing the videos. And thanks for tuning in to Tim3. Are you a new viewer? I don't remember seeing your name before. The heck, there we go. All right. Next, looking at detected sunspot groups and flare probability. Flare probability is very high. And we've only really seen some light flaring over the past couple of days. There was one M-class flare. It was a very short duration. And one interesting factor here is sunspot 3034. It's located right on the solar equator. And it's a weird time in the solar cycle to be seeing a sunspot so close to the equator. But sunspot 3034 is indeed located there. And there's a lot of conjecture as to what's going on with it. I've got some ideas about it. I won't share them in this video. It's not really appropriate. And once again, thanks for your comments to Tim3. All right, let's take a look at sunspots here in a little bit more detail. This is the 1700 angstroms view, and you can see There are just lots of sunspots. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. Lots of sunspots, hundreds indeed, showing up on the sunspot numbers. So that's the 1700 angstroms view. We'll move into flaring here in a moment. First, I would invite you all to watch our Twitch channel. We typically break our space weather and meteorology segments up. Today we're doing everything all together, and it has to do with internet outages. So again, smashomash.com/smashteam. If you click posts, you'll see all of our videos in one convenient location. Consider joining at the gold or silver member if you'd like to support the content and see it continue to exist and remain publicly visible. We're getting a pretty severe thunderstorm here in Pennsylvania. And we're getting a torrential downpour happening at the moment. Anyway, once again, smashomash.com/smashteam. We replaced Patreon with something superior, but we are still on Patreon as well. Once again, today's featured product is the Galactic Federation Special Forces Universum Libertate motto. The motto of the Galactic Federation Special Forces. If you're sick of what's going on planet Earth, lots of people would tend to agree with you. We would prefer to see everybody free. Freedom and liberty. It's been a bit of an issue the past couple years, wouldn't you tend to agree? Smashomash.com. Once again, you can find all of our links there. We are still on Patreon. Give Smash staff a raise. She needs one. And she's a partner in the operation. So you can find all kinds of links to our social media and so on. Drop us a line over there. We did announce this live stream earlier on Twitch. On Twitter. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Twitter.com/smashomash. Oh my God, we're all the way up to 260 followers. Do you think the pathetic censorship has been ended on Twitter? Well, we certainly don't. One of our latest tweets here is not visible. We just put it up this morning and it's not there. Because reasons. I don't know what the reasons are. I've just pressed refresh. Maybe our tweet has been censored. I couldn't imagine any censorship on the internet, right? Yeah, the pathetic censorship on the internet. It has not been solved. Elon Musk has failed at his goal of achieving free speech, and let's get back to the solar data. So this M-class flare happened right around 3:50 Universal Time this morning. It was a minor M-class flare at the M1.6 level. It was pretty short duration. We didn't see any relativistic particles here, no spikes in the GOES proton flux. And let's put your comments back on the screen once again. 2Tim3, thanks for leaving comments. 2Tim3 says he never gets a live notice from the YouTube folks. You're welcome for all we do. We appreciate that you appreciate what we're doing. And here we should have a view of this M-class flare. So it came from this sunspot down here. I don't remember the number of that sunspot. To quote Einstein, never memorize anything that you can look up. Einstein there recognizing the finite capacity of the human brain. Never memorize anything you can look up. Anyway, 94 angstroms is one of the best wavelengths through which to view solar flares. And we've got a custom close-up of that M-class event. Here it is in slightly zoomed-in glory along with the Earth scale there. Great view there of that flare. And again, solar flares are very likely with this number of sunspots. Remember, folks, sunspots are more likely to produce large flares while they're at the limb than when they're in the center of the solar disk. It's something like a 20% higher probability to produce a flare at the limb. And there are some valid physics theories as to what this is. That does tie into our explanation of the solar polar field reversal and sunspot cycles. Next, bringing up a star chart here. We'd like to know what's going on above our head. This is what's going on above our head here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. As the planetary pileup continues, all the planets have gathered on one side of the solar system, causing people to be frightened for no reason, maybe because they don't understand planetary physics, but there is the solar system model. Let's advance this 1 week as we do on the regs. And there's where things will be in a week. People probably thinking that Jupiter and Saturn are going to kill them, or that they're going to cause the sun to go into a grand solar minimum, or that Mercury and Earth are going to switch places orbitally speaking, or some other nonsense like that. That's just simply not going to happen. And let's take a look at some coronagraphs here. We do have a likely coronal mass ejection happening in the southwestern limb. There's a huge plume of plasma suspended out there, and what is going on with that? There we go. Let's take a look at some more coronagraphs here, including stereo A located at Lagrange 5 and the Soho-Lasco C3 located at Lagrange 1. So for you new viewers out there, Earth would be behind you from the perspective of the Soho-Lasco C3, and Earth would be off in this direction from stereo A. Yeah, you know what's interesting to Tim 3 is that YouTube is very concerned about live streaming and gaming and so on, and yet they shadow ban people and they don't recommend the most appropriate content, and they, for some reason, promote a bunch of fraud, propaganda, and nonsense. I don't know why that is. Maybe they think it advances their views and so on, but ultimately the way it works is big tech is unable to break the internet. However, the internet is certainly able to break big tech. So the problem that they're looking at is the misleading of investors, and that is illegal even in pathetic banana republic countries that have two justice systems and a complete lack of accountability and mass corruption and corporatism. You can expect to see this plasma eject at any moment. That is more plasma than the sun's magnetic fields can continue to suspend. So some of that plasma is going to be heading out. I would anticipate it will be missing the Earth to the southwest. Let's blast through our bonus feature segment. This one usually only appears on Twitch as well. Today, it's only on YouTube. The whole thing is a YouTube live stream exclusive. This is our total electron content forecast, showing you the most likely places for GPS errors. And check it out, we've got some massive anomalies happening down here around the Southern Ocean and Antarctica. We'll let that play through a second time. We've got essentially a little miniature additional Van Allen belt going on down there. Some high levels of electrons in some unexpected locations. Typically, we only see those high electron contents around the equator at noontime. And let me just bring up a diagram here to show you what we're looking at. The total electron content forecast includes the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset. This satellite's located about 12,500 miles of altitude. And there's a plasmasphere up here. There's a Van Allen belt. And there's another plasmasphere down here. And when this must communicate through a lot of free electrons, you get a refraction of the signal, and your GPS could be off by thousands of miles as a result of that. And let's continue on. Here's our satellite's community dashboard. Solar wind speed now back up to about 600 kilometers per second. We've got some minor charging hazards over Mexico, moving into the Central Pacific Ocean. And here's the GOES electron flux. We're seeing an increase here in the electron flux, perhaps an early indicator that the coronal hole high-speed stream is subsiding. Here's the forecast model. NOAA expecting an increase in the electron flux. No arguments there from me. Here's the one-year chart to put the relativistic electrons in context. You can find that chart if you like at solon.info. solon.info/solar. And next we'll look at the ionosphere, and namely the F layer. By the way, the F layer is where the GOES 16 and 17 make their measurements of the relativistic electron flux. And here is the vibrational frequency and anomalygram of the F ionosphere layer. So this data is courtesy of Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. And nothing too out of the ordinary looking like it's going on there. Let's bring up the anomalygram just to make sure. If you're not familiar with looking at the vibrational frequency ionogram, here is the anomalygram showing anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. Some low frequency anomalies here on both sides of the equator. And some rapid swings from low to high in the Indian Ocean. Nothing too exciting though. There is the current image, that's 1045 universal time ionogram. There's 1045 universal time anomalygram, and you're seeing low frequency anomalies here over Southeast and Central Asia. Next, we'll do a ground-based solar observatory as we do most days on Twitch, very rarely on YouTube. But today, because of technical difficulties involving our internet service provider, we're putting all of our content right here on YouTube. And once again, if you're tuning in, leave us a comment. We often have no idea how many people are watching the videos because, well, the software is barely functional. So we regularly see people leaving comments and it's showing us that we have 0 viewers. So if you are tuning in, drop us a line and we'll gladly put your comments on the screen here. Once again, thanks to Tim3 for leaving comments. This is the ground-based solar observatory at El Teide, Spain. And there is a huge plasma filament up here. There's also one down here, and there's also one down here. So lots of plasma filaments here. Likelihood of coronal mass ejection is very high. Remember, folks, you don't need to see sunspots or solar flares to see coronal mass ejections. Let's bring up the latest intensitygram and latest colorized magnetogram. There's your refresh. And just lots of sunspots. So this one back here, this is a new group. That's another beta gamma class sunspot group. It looks like the main sunspots here have shrunk a little bit over the past 24. Again, we did see a decrease in the radio flux. But anyway, there's your rock back. Likelihood of solar flares, a very high with that many sunspots. So we're going to move from space weather to meteorology here in the next few moments. Here's the GOES 16 SUVI 304 angstroms view. There's a huge filament over here as well. You can see that overlapping the limb there. It's what we call a prominence. That's ionized helium. And let's close out the space weather content on the house favorite. Once again, give Smash staff a raise by visiting smashamash.com, picking up some merch. Don't forget to enter the promo code FINDYOURVIBE. That discount ends tomorrow, June 17th. Again, you can find links to our Redbubble shop at smashamash.com. So that's where we'll close out our space weather video, and we're going to transition straight into meteorology. So yesterday we talked briefly about ocean currents, and you can see the Gulf Stream getting a little bit interrupted here by some cold water. So you can see all that anomalously cold water there south of Greenland and east of Newfoundland. I just figured I would bring that up again and let us know if you're viewing the videos from Europe and if you're seeing some cold temperatures there. So yes, we're going to switch back to the normal views here. Here are the surface winds of the eastern world. And there's a strong low here to the southwest of Australia. You can see this clockwise rotation. In the Southern Ocean there, that is the way low pressures rotate in the northern hemisphere, and a strong low here in the outer Aleutian Islands as well. Here are the jet streams of the east. Here are the jet streams of the Americas. And we're seeing a stagnant jet stream down here in the southern U.S. You can see the jet stream mostly north of the U.S. and Canada at the moment. And that'll create some funky weather patterns now, as we will see some convective forces taking over and so on. You may see some weird weather patterns moving in odd directions and so on. It's not a result of chemtrails or geoengineering or other nonsense that people don't seem to understand the physics of. It's a result of convective forces taking things over and the jet stream not pushing weather from west to east. Strong low here forming off the coast of Mexico as well. And a strange windy ridge here happening in the North Atlantic. You can see an area of calm winds up here. And yeah, that's That's pretty weird. And last but not least, we'll show the surface winds and jet streams of the Europe and African region. Let's take a brief view at the Southern Ocean and check it out. We've got a whole series of lows here around Antarctica. That is stormy seas there in the Southern Ocean. Anyway, those are the surface winds of Europe and Africa. Here are the jet streams of this portion of the planet. Let's move on, as there's plenty more information to cover here. So here's your weather.gov map. We've got excessive heat in the east central portion of the country here, especially in places like Missouri, Illinois, southern Indiana, and western Kentucky. Heat advisories over a large portion of the country there, many states. If your county is lit, please click your county. And it looks like the freezing and winter weather advisories and so on have now finally subsided, as all kinds of snow is trying to melt, and it's creating all kinds of flooding and so forth in the Rockies. Here's your NASA GOES lightning mapper. A heavy band of lightning there, stretching all the way from Missouri up to Lake Huron. And you can see this. Here's a weird system for you. This is exactly what we were talking about. You can see this system moving due west from Georgia into Mississippi. And there you go. There's a system right there, sort of moving backwards as a result of convective forces, because the jet stream is all the way up north in Canada. And thanks for leaving a comment, Carl. We will put everybody's comments on the screen here momentarily before we close out the video. And since we are streaming live, check it out. We've got some shout outs. Hey, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. There is some thunder and lightning. So for you viewers out there who don't know where we're located, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania is right around here. And I can't really see Lehigh County on the map there, but it's like about 15 miles west of Easton. And if you're wondering if you can forecast thunder by using lightningmaps.org, the answer is yes. If you'd like to frighten the natives, check it out next time you hear thunder, lightningmaps.org. It's just spectacular. And those are those active cells. We've got some more active cells as well down toward the DC corridor and Richmond. Some Chesapeake Bay lightning there happening around Annapolis, Maryland. Lee Airport, there's thunder rolling in. There's a highly active cell located there. We'll zoom out to the global view here. And some lightning around the northern Mediterranean and western Russia at the moment. If you think Putin is generating the lightning, please leave us a comment. I know lots of people blaming Putin for all kinds of things that he may or may not be doing. Let's take a look at the water vapor environment here over the Pacific Ocean, Earth's largest body of water. It's also a huge surface heat sink, the world's largest. Water has a huge latency of heat, meaning it takes a lot of energy to heat it up. And it costs a lot of energy when it cools down as well. But there's the situation for water vapor. And there's a weak low here moving toward Washington. You can see this counterclockwise rotation. It is surrounded by dry mass of air, and that's not going to help to strengthen things. And let's continue on. Here's your GFS pressure and precipitation forecast for the next 72 hours. Once again, thanks to all of our viewers for leaving comments. Thanks for tuning in, and congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Don't forget to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Thanks to everybody who has. And you can see, as we forecasted, some funky weather patterns moving in odd directions. It's all a result of the jet stream. It's not because of HARP. It's not because of chemtrails. It's not because Bulgarians are firing rockets at hailstorms to try to divert them and prevent them from destroying crops. Here is your satellite imagery from windy.com. They've got a great mobile app over there at windy.com, by the way. Perhaps we'll try to pick up windy.com as a cycling sponsor for our UCI trade team. Seems like a good choice for cyclists. windy.com. Spectacular satellite imagery there stitched together. Once again, I'd invite you all to visit smashamash.com, give Smash staff a raise, help us out by visiting our links, check us out on social media. We're not sure when the censorship will end, but it will probably end eventually because big tech cannot break the internet. However, the internet can break big tech, so welcome to the neo-renaissance. Perhaps we've cited too many facts on the channel to get beyond 2,500 subscribers on YouTube. Anyway, here's your U.S. Doppler radar map. We're going to zoom out briefly to the 50-state view. And we've included Alaska and Hawaii. Shout out to our viewers from all around the world. The rest of the video will be focusing on the lower 48. You can see those severe thunderstorms there moving out toward New England. Some more minor storms there moving toward Detroit. It looks like Detroit, especially the northern part of the city, might be in the crosshairs there for some extreme weather. There is a powerful cell there at the southern end of those storms. Remember, folks, the most dangerous part of a tornadic cell in the northern hemisphere would be the northwest corner of the storm. That's where tornadoes tend to show themselves. Here's your shortwave radiation map showing clouds and fog. It's too dark over most of the country to use the visible satellite, so we use the 3.9 nanometer radiation map. And there is the water vapor. We've got high pressure and clear skies over a large portion of the country here. And remember, folks, at a given temperature and pressure, dry air is more massive than moist air. It's all a result of the molecular mass of N2 versus H2O, atmospheric nitrogen. It's more massive, or you could even say heavier, than water vapor. Here's your recap. That is the U.S. Doppler radar map. Let's briefly put your comments back on the screen. Once again, thanks to everybody who's tuned in. We'll close out with the recap. There is the U.S. Doppler radar map. That's radar.weather.gov, by the way, if you want to look at that yourself. Here's shortwave radiation. A lot of low clouds here over the Atlantic. See a bunch of low clouds right in there. And here's the water vapor map. That should give you some insight if your Doppler radar is not making sense. Anyway, thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And may that solar wind be at your back.